What if you have a relative who is engaged in a pattern of sin against you? Here are some points. Examine yourself first and see if you are contributing to the problem in any way. So examine yourself first and see if you're contributing to the problem in any way, such as enabling the behavior. Ouch. Luke 6, Jesus says, why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, oh, let me get that out of your eye, when you fail yourself to see the log in your own eye? So let's always examine ourselves. And this is the doggone thing about this, is that every time we examine ourselves, usually there is a small role we play, not all the time, but often there's like this little small role, and usually it's an enabling role that sometimes we play, where we allow it to go on. So just check that. Next, deal with the situation quickly so that anger doesn't grow to resentment. Next, confront by yourself, then with others, and then possibly take a break from the relationship. But most women are not great confronters, but we can confront in love. We can confront gently. Remember, we have this overarching principle of love and letting our light shine for Jesus. So even in confrontation, we can be loving and gentle and respectful and all of that. But if someone's sinning against us, Jesus actually tells us in Matthew 18, if your brother sins against you, go and show him his fault. Do not retaliate or seek revenge when someone hurts you. Matthew 5, but I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be sons of your Father in heaven. He causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. If you love those who love you, what reward will you get? Aren't even the tax collectors doing that? It's such a convicting verse, isn't it? Anyway, what about a nosy, meddling, over-involved relative? Well, first realize that it is not appropriate for your mom or his mom to be calling every day and stopping at your house every day. And I know people that deal with this. Does anyone deal with it to that level where it's just like every day? Oh my goodness. Okay then. Now, if you enjoy that, I mean, because some of you might really have a fabulous relationship and everyone's copacetic, your husband thinks this is marvelous, you think this is marvelous, then you just do whatever you want to do. Often, this is not the case. Sometimes moms kind of have a hard time cutting the apron strings, but in my ever so humble opinion, and I believe this is backed up scripturally, moms need to back off and realize that they are no longer the primary relationship. There was a time when moms and dads were the primary relationship with their children. There was a time. But when there's a marriage, that means that the relationship now has shifted, and the new primary relationship is between husband and wife. And that is, throughout the Bible in Genesis and then in Mark 10, but at the beginning of creation, God made them male and female. For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. So they are no longer two, but one flesh. This is the new primary relationship. So the old is gone, the new has come. And a mom needs to know that. Now, how do you walk this out? Because we're supposed to honor our parents, right? I believe you can still honor in terms of being respectful and polite, but it doesn't mean that they need to try to continue being the primary relationship. I think you get to set some boundaries there. In fact, the Bible really does say something about nosy people too. It doesn't use that word, but it does say in Proverbs 26:17. It basically says to mind your own business. It says, like one who grabs a stray dog by the ears is someone who rushes into a quarrel not their own. And often mothers are trying to insert themselves into arguments and how things should run in the household and create almost like factions. Have you ever been in that kind of thing where it's like, well, I believe my daughter needs to do, or I believe my son needs to have you do this and this, and they're kind of creating alliances and factions and inserting themselves. Not so good.